Hello friends, Jenkins Dota here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of DotaAlchemy.com, and this is going to be part of the Dota 2 Advanced Mechanics video series. And in this video, I'm going to be covering how to micro. Okay, so first and foremost, before I get into anything, basically, if you have a good setup and it feels like you just need to practice with it, and there's no hard cap to how much you can do with it in terms of microing, aka your mouse and your keyboard settings are just perfectly fine, but you just need practice, that's okay. You don't need to follow any of my settings or anything that I'm about to say in this video. But with that being said, I think a lot of people are weak at micro, not necessarily because it's actually hard, but because they have bad settings for it. And I've had a lot of people in the past, in competitive, they'll say like, holy crap, Jenkins, that was an amazing treant block with Nature's Prophet, or, you have really good micro. And I always find it really funny because it doesn't really feel hard in the moment. It doesn't feel like it's a difficult thing to do, and I think it really isn't, mechanically speaking. I think people just use these like crazy old Warcraft 3 settings, whereas I use some of the new ones, and it's really, really easy for me to micro well. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that, and first I want to show you my settings, so what I actually use. So if you go into the little cog in the top left, and you go into settings, hotkeys, the very first important setting is this select hero. I have this bound to my mouse 4, so that's the, it's kind of like the back button on the mouse. It's near my thumb on the left of the mouse, so that's not the left click, it's literally a button on the side of my mouse. So I have that as my select hero, and that's really, really important. And then in here I have the control groups, which I do use. It depends on the hero. Usually the more complicated heroes will require these control groups. Beastmaster, maybe Meepo sometimes. Nature's Prophet, for example, wouldn't really require these control groups, but tabbing to the next unit is still really, really useful. So the select hero is really important here. I don't have select all controlled units because there's another option that I use that basically does that already. So if you go into the advanced hotkeys, I have select all other units, and that's bound to mouse 5. So like I said, the mouse 4 is the button on the left of my mouse. It's the first one, it's the closest one to me. Mouse 5 is the one in the front. So I use mouse 5 and mouse 4 to select between my hero and all other units. And this, for instance, with Nature's Prophet, lets me micro the treant separately from microing my hero. And that's why people say, Jenkins, you have really good treant blocks. And with Broodmother, people think that I have great spider micro. It's literally just because I have these two settings that make it so damn easy. You literally select all your spiders. You can block people. You can do whatever. Same with the treants. And then you can select the hero with the mouse 4. It's so damn easy. It's right. It's on my right hand. I don't even need to have my hand on the keyboard, and it can look like I'm microing. So I would definitely suggest this if you don't have settings that you think are great. And then I believe there's some other options that are important. They are not in here. These other control groups don't really matter. I don't know anybody that uses tank control groups. That'd be ridiculous. Maybe StarCraft pros. But if you go into options, this is a really important one. Holding down control when issuing an order will send it to all units that you control. So one really nice thing that you can do with this is you can like right click with all of your treants if you're playing Nature's Prophet and your hero, make everything hit one unit, and then you can select all of your units using that mouse 5 button. And then all of a sudden, if you hold control, you're microing your hero and your units, and if you press that mouse button, you're microing just the unit. So you can do really easy treant block, and you can actually move your hero without even having to select the hero. So that's why people think it's so amazing. It's like, wow, you micro both at once. Really, it's not that. It's that I'm right-clicking with everything and then just using the selected treants that I had selected just by simply pressing that mouse button to block. So it's super, super easy. So that's it. That's all the micro stuff that I have in here that's really important. And now I'm going to show you guys how I actually do it in-game. So the first thing that I want to show you guys is how to treant block people with Nature's Prophet. And the reason that I'm showing you this isn't because this is how you're going to use these settings exactly for every hero. I just wanted to give you a scenario where I'm doing something that's generally considered to be pretty micro-intensive very easily with these settings, because I do believe that most heroes are very easily playable, even these crazy intensive micro heroes with these settings. Even Meepo, I find Meepo's, I play a decent Meepo just given that these settings are really, really easy to use. So let's say you want to treant block somebody with Nature's Prophet. All you want to do is you summon the treants, and then you use that whatever command you have set to select all of your summoned units. So you don't want to select your heroes, select your summoned units, and that's going to let you micro these guys in front of him when we spawn these treants right in front of him using the sprout. And then you use the control unified orders. You hold control and right click on X, and then your treants are going to turn around a little bit, but that's okay because you're going to immediately be able to micro them to keep blocking him because they're already selected, and you never select your hero once And this basically makes it so that you don't need to do that box select, because look at my mouse movement as I'm box selecting. I'm moving my mouse off of this hero, and what if I want to hex him or somebody who's going to save him? I want to have full control over my mouse. I don't want to be doing that kind of box select. It's just extra movements that I don't need to do. So here's how I do it. Let's say he's running away. He's running this way. You just put the treants, put them in front of him, select them, and then you can just block. And you can see that my hero keeps right-clicking because I used those unified unit orders, and he stopped moving because I didn't move him very far. But it's very, very simple. All you need to do is, you don't need to go back and forth between them, nothing like that. All you need to do is move them in front of him, and then let's say I want to get my hero over here. Let's say he moves this way, I want to get my hero over there, and I'm not selecting. So all I need to do is use the control. So I held control there, that's why my hero started right-clicking, but this whole time I've been selecting these treants, and it looks like I'm doing this like sick body block on him, but really it's just me selecting exclusively the treants and then using the unified unit orders to move my hero over after the fact. This is also very, very useful for in the laning phase. Let's say I'm laning against this guy. Obviously, if he runs into his tower or runs away from me, I don't necessarily want to chase with my hero because that'll put me out of position, but you always want your treants to be harassing people in the lane. So you can use the control click while selecting your hero. He might run away, and then I can keep kind of, you know, let's say I'm just last hitting here, and then if I want the treants to stop and come back to the lane, all I need to do is I just hold control, move them back to the lane. That'll move my hero too, but since I'm selecting him, I can immediately stop it. So let's say I want to move my treants over here. I can move them over here by holding control and then putting them over here, and then moving my hero just by doing an extra command on him to stop that command. So you can see my treants are going over there, but not my hero. And that's just really, really great for laning because you can micro your treants without even having to click them, which is super good. So let's say I want my treants to go attack him in the laning phase. I can go put the treants over on him by holding control. They go run and start attacking him, and I can just sit here and keep last hitting without being out of position. The next thing that I want to show you guys is something called shift deselecting, and this is really, really useful for when you have a hero who summons multiple of the same thing, but you want to move some of these things individually. So for example, Naga Siren with her illusions, this is really great to micro those. It's really great to micro the Broodmother Spiderlings to give vision, and it's really important to use with this Nature's Prophet hero to move the treants around the map individually to scout for enemy rotations. In particular, this is something people do a lot with the 4-roll kind of Nature's Prophet because it gives a lot of vision. So what you do is you summon treants or Naga illusions or whatever. You select all of them, so I can box select, or I can use the select all summoned units thing. And let's say I want to move them just to all kind of positions of the map. A lot of the time you'll actually use the mini map for this. What you do is you right click somewhere, hold shift, and then left click one of the units. Right click somewhere, hold shift, left click one of the units, right click somewhere, hold shift, left click one of the units, and what that's going to do is I'm going to move everything over here, deselect one of them, move everything over here, deselect one of them, move everything over here, and then deselect one of them. And what that's doing is that's moving, I mean, technically you're moving all of them at once, but since you're deselecting, you're going to move individual treants to each of those spots without having to do some crazy like, oh, click this guy, move more, click this guy. You don't need to do any of those clicks. Just select all of them, move this guy over here, press shift, left click, move this guy over here, press shift, left click, move this guy over here, press shift, left click, and so forth. So you can see that all of these guys are going their separate ways. It looks like I'm some sort of micro god, but really there is no skill required. It's just about knowledge. The final thing that I want to show you guys is how to micro these heroes where they have units that don't necessarily want to be doing the same thing. So if you have like, you know, a Naga Siren, Nature's Prophet, these heroes, they have these units where they're all the same. They kind of have the same purpose, so you can use the shift deselecting, or you can just do the unified unit orders, select all other units. These things work for those heroes. For Beastmaster, well, it kind of works these days because a lot of the time you're just using the Hawk to scout for your roars. You want your units to be with you because they have the kill potential. So a lot of the time, based on how Beastmaster is played now, it's really good to have these units on you, but that's not necessarily always going to be the case. So sometimes, let's say you're fighting around Roshan, you want to micro this Hawk separately. You don't want this guy to die. Let's say that he moves into a tower, all of your units go into that tower, and you're thinking, hey, I don't want my Hawk to die. You know, I want this guy to be alive, so after I roar this guy, we have this thing for vision to take the fight. So you need to have a key available to micro this guy separately. A lot of the time you can get away with the unified unit orders. You can just select it. I would say definitely start there for these heroes. Don't feel like you can't play Beastmaster because you don't have an individual control group for everything. It's perfectly fine as long as you're comfortable with it. It's just that that'll get you 90% of the way there, and the extra 10% is really what makes great Beastmasters in my opinion. So basically what you need to do is go into a practice lobby, spam whatever your hold control, and then select the Hawk, and spam whatever your control group key is. So for me it's F1 on this Hawk, and then anytime I resummon, it's going to select this Hawk. And I can double tap that key F1 to go to the Hawk. Let's say the Roche Pit's over here or something like that. I want the Hawk to scout over here. I could double tap my hero and then select all of these guys to move them around. Move the Hawk, maybe it can come closer, and then I can box select these guys. And the great thing about that is moving the Hawk away, you're not going to accidentally box select the Hawk. You're going to only be able to box select these guys. And let's say I want to select this guy. Maybe you can just click it. That's fine. They're pretty big. But with that being said, after you've kind of mastered the Hawk micro, you can go in and bind this to F2 or whatever your second control group key is by doing the same thing. Hold control, spam your button on this guy, and no matter what the summoned unit is, that's going to be the second control group. Thank God Valve put that into the game. They kind of fixed that. Before, you'd have to manually bind every single creep, but thank God for that. So you can kind of use the body block after roaring or whatever. And then the third control group that I have for Beastmaster that's really important is binding this Necro unit. So let's say I have this, I'll put an axe here. I'll get him a heart so he doesn't die. Don't die. Don't die on me. Alright. Stop attacking. So what I'll do, let's say this guy has like a Lincoln Sphere or something. I can hold control, and then I can do my unified unit orders, have everything attack him, and then I can use my F3 key and then cancel that Lincoln Sphere and then roar him like that. And that's kind of something that you can really only do very quickly with the Necro unit if you have that pre-bound. So that's why you would want that to be something that you can select. So maybe you even want to try to master that before you master the neutral creep. But those are the three control groups I have for Beastmaster. I don't find that the boar needs to be microed separately really, because it's usually with the hero or just pushing a lane, in which case you can just kind of select it and move it off and just say whatever, screw the boar, it doesn't really matter that much. And a lot of the times that works. You can just click things if you're not absolutely comfortable with the control groups. But with that being said, I'm pretty sure that the kind of maximum skill cap is higher when you are using these control groups. I know a lot of really amazing micro players use these control groups, so this is probably the last thing that you want to check off that list of being able to micro, because it's the hardest, but it's also kind of that last couple percentages of being a really good micro player.